I would like to now introduce our first featured reader for today, Erik Muller. I've known Erik since I was first participating in the Eugene poetry community in 2012. He has participated in several of my poetry events over the years and has always been very supportive of my work. It is with great personal pleasure to have him as one of our featured readers today. I have always found his readings to be very informative as well as entertaining. I ask all our featured readers to provide a short bio for introduction and promotional purposes, and this is what Erik sent me. A poet for 60 years, most of them lived in Oregon, Erik has been engaged in local poetry as an editor, publisher, essayist, and self-published poet. He has edited Fireweed, Poetry of Western Oregon, and Trap Rock books. His book, Durable Goods, Appreciations of American Poets, 2017, is from Mountains and Rivers Press. Erik is currently on the OPA board. He's currently an OPA board member. So, with no further ado, please welcome Erik Muller.
Stephen is such a sweetheart. We get along very well. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be reading with Susan Whitney. And, oh my gosh, standing room only. Like this is the airport and all the security people are gone. We'll get you on board, before break time. I don't know if there are more chairs anywhere, really. But sitting on the rug, I think, is appropriate as well. So for me, the key thing that I pull out of the biography is 60 years. I could have been playing pool. I could be.
You should have been
Charles Castle. I could have had a very extensive and growing model train set up in our house, right? Well, if I'd had those things, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be me. I've been a poet for 60 years, and as I read, I may have some comments to say about that. It's been a good thing, in a nutshell. I think it's been a good thing, and very without stress, at least for me. I don't want to say writing is easy, but it's very, very engaging, it's very pleasurable, and what a community in terms of supporting us. I want to start with some short poems, because they're often the hardest to hear. I'm not going to do Robert Bly, even though hats off, he's gone. He used to read them twice, the short ones. So here are 4, I believe. How simple it is, a window, a tree, just to look out, to think, here, there, to let the tree be tree entirely, to let my eye rest, I being me, here, there, person and tree. How simple it is. How simple the poet is. You probably, if you have a feeder, you watch how, if you get woodpeckers, you watch how their tail is sort of like a third leg, a prop. I'll reference that here. Their legs are short. They spend a lot of their time vertical, climbing up, down, and that tail comes into play. In this poem, I wish I had one. So, with my poor balance, grasshopper, meadow, slope, has me scrambling for footing, my head spinning, a stout stick like the tail of a woodpecker for bracing. The view goes wide. I lean out. Next time, I'll come ready to fly. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people aren't applauding. I know that's permitted and it's often customary at Barnes Noble, but for me and maybe for Susan, she can state her own desires on that. Just as soon not hear any applause. I speak about the Tatra Mountains here. I've never been there. I know nothing about them. And this is a totally invented poem. I don't write necessarily from experience. a flower of the Tatra Mountains, a road of tight, dangerous curves. The Tatra, whose waters foam like nothing you have tasted, pocked vertebrae of one continent reaching toward another, worn to humility, relieving the eye of its versions. The low, wide cream flower, stoop and breathe in its nothing. Starlight, not the usual light to read by, though visible, it touches nothing here, shines on no table or book, yet from far and deep time it arrives at our eyes, requires our attention. We have been looking up as if to read. So those are 4 poems that are short. They come from a set of poems in one of the books there, Daymark's. They're 10-liners. And I kind of got caught doing them and producing a lot of them. And it became very, very enjoyable. One of the things that I learned from comments by Lex Runciman, but I think I've been living it anyway, is that to be a poet is, of course, to write a poem once in a while. Come on, guys. You know, write a poem once in a while. But it's also to read it over and critique it, to involve other people in critiquing it, maybe to send it out, to join a group, to read other poets, to come to poetry readings. So all of those things, to arrange your poetry books in alphabetical order, all of these things are, part of being a poet. So if you're not writing every day, and I don't, I can still feel in the busyness of being a poet, as opposed from the business of being a poet, that I am one. I'll say more about that, because that mixture, to me, makes a kind of whole grain loaf, okay? All those tidbits make a pretty weighty and wholesome loaf. Let's call it poetry bread, if you want. And again, I'm reflecting on my 60 years. This poem was inspired by a CD that I received from Elaine Weiss of Andy Stanton and David Grisman, and it was klezmer music. And what moved me most, the music was beautiful, performance was great, but what moved me most were the black and white photographs taken from the shtetl, taken from the villages and towns, where it was so clear there was a very vibrant community life, not just music, reading together, walking to and fro school together, bringing wagon loads of produce to market, and so on. All of these, gone. This is called a Klezmer Tune, and I've taken a lot of liberty here. And I'm not watching the time. I'm going to ask anybody, see where I began. Give me maybe a 2-minute whistle. Charles? Got it. It's called a Klezmer Tune. A waltz in a village where my people never live, holding the hand and waist of a young woman I never meet, her dark hair low on her brow, her breath sweet as carrots, where I never go to the cellar for parsnips, potatoes, beets. Town musicians, old brothers with mandolin and clarinet, one of the grandsons thumping a drum I will not hear. The waltz pitched high, thin as a starling's call. I try to imagine when the waltz comes to an end. The dozen couples disengage, then bow with an easy courtesy I have never possessed. I stand aside stiffly after the last measure. The waltz in black and white, before color photos, before the era of motor cars, still horse and wagon. A gutter strewn with oats, attracting starlings. By popular request, the waltz plays again and will progress to its close, years before military vehicles rolled into the cramped square, one mounting a loudspeaker that crackles, that calls out to villagers I never know, the dark girl, the musician brothers, the boy beating drum. A uniform and high boots, a strident proclamation, loud, insistent, no waltz nor any dance, a kind of drum forming up troops in lines. I never hear that klezmer melody. I never courteously bow. The twirling couples brush one another, yet never collide. And I'm getting a little thirsty. Maybe you could uncork that jug of, I don't know what's in there. Something good.
Something good.
Water. It's amazing how when you're a little nervous, even though I've probably had 100 readings, you parch out pretty fast.
Erik, we talked about a chair. Would you like one?
I'm okay for now. If I feel shaky, I'll call you.
All right.
Red Bandana. It's a list poem. The challenge with a list poem is how do you end it? You know, Walt Whitman, check him out. So that's the challenge. It's not a very long poem, but I think I have a nice close for it. The bandana unfolded in my lap, damp with sweat, sticky sneezes, once bound the arm a stub punched deep, covered my head when I lost my hat, made a pocket for creaked pebbles, wiped the mirror of a knife blade clean. Today I choose a fresh one, knotted loose around my throat, for love of you, saying so in bright red. Our son has been ill. He lives in Fresno. I had a trip over a week down there with him in the hospital and at his house. And the next 6 poems are part of a small collection called Fresno Mercies. And I won't read the titles unless they seem to be necessary to the meaning of the poem. On the hospital patio, the wasp on the umbrella, unlike those I've seen, all pale yellows, meticulously cleans leg sweeping antenna. I return to my son in the bed on 5 Main, where it's been touch and go. Lovely yellow wasp, adequate to its life as he will be to his. And then kind of a more general hospital scene, the Hospital of St. Agnes. I was very impressed by the Catholic element, the dimension around the whole process of caregiving, and it's reflected in some of these poems. Electric chimes sound on wing and ward when a baby is born on floor 6, highest on Main, closed to the public, the mystery of birth, both a select and holy rite. On lower levels, even police come and go, a traffic of patients in hospital beds, blood and urine. The new one arrives, is held high, named, examined, I'll do that. The new one arrives, is held high, examined and named, then wrapped and brought down to live among us. The heads I see in hospital beds lie face up, raised as if dreaming. They come from ICU without respirator or multiple tubes. Their profiles mark the frightful line between this moment and the next. And this is said at Daniel's home, where I'm living in the meantime. Early at Daniel's, I see a slice of October moon, curved and clear, light enough to reveal leaves in the pool. There is no wind, yet they swirl. The sky pales, the current of change felt in its changes, the current unchanged. I eat a bit, walk Daniel's 2 dogs, drive the familiar way to the hospital. before leaving Fresno by train. I do not pray to St. Agnes, though I wear her medal. Nope, the Shepherd's Inn pulls me into memories of family dinners and farewell drinks with Daniel, waiting for my train. Pray for me, please, St. Agnes medal. Yes, she may pray. Alone I am waiting, and order a drink while I am waiting. We need Daniel, our lovely son, to recover himself. If it requires a saint's effort, I will kneel to her. And the last in that series names the town of Madera, which is one of the first stops north out of Fresno on the train. And the San Joaquin is the river that the train passes over. And it's just dusk, and the light on the river at that particular moment was comforting. Not far out of Fresno. I cry to Madera. Daniel, don't laugh. No, I don't, though I need to. Only to the San Joaquin, whose still waters catch evening glow and deep reflections of suppliant willows, the light and dark meeting together, and your being well. I've got two more. And I do have some of my booklets. I have them run off at Instaprint, which is a great place to get your printing done. And I take them home and collate sometimes. Sometimes Brian does it for me. I fold, unless he's done it for me. I do sew them, and makes a product that I'm very happy with. And it says out there, Erik's free verse, and that's what you got in booklets. I brought 30, and you're welcome to take your share. I know you have 6 brothers and sisters, and they're all poets. Yeah, that's okay. It's a great family. 2 more. The title is the first line, so I want you to read it. This is one of Amity's that I was thinking of, one of his favorites that I was thinking of when I put it in my booklet here. There was such a person. I saw him in plate glass, striding in Manhattan, 1954, going somewhere in a rush. When I look in store windows as I walk in Eugene, 2017, I see nothing of that person, or if it is he, thickened, he walks slowly and bowed. What can I say about this person or that boy reflected in glass? Nothing wise or flippant, no nicety of phrase, no more questions, no more no's. That one of me walked into another of me, that I cannot manage saying goodbye, hello, in one word. There's an early star, the first warm night, high off to one side, fire core and fringe. Too ignorant to name it, I never connect the dots. Yet star, you and I connect tonight as I lean from the window and strain to look up. We both stand aside. In our separate ways, we burn. Gazing at you, I sense a wide, deep silence. A silence into which things enter, from which things emerge. I have no language for it, yet I stare fiercely to forge our constellation. Seeing you, I see through the rest of my years. It will be quiet and far. No doubt, someone will be looking, offering up a name.
So, I don't know about you, but that was a pretty short read from one of our very special poets. And I'm wondering, would you read one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I bring 4, but I can.
From this?
He has like half his time.
Please.
Yes, You have about 10 more minutes left, Eric.
Yeah, Eric.
I'll read what the page opens to.
Eric, we want our money's worth.
You got like
So the page looks like that.
10 minutes.
They're laid
You
out.
could read the whole book.
10-line poems. And I call them 5 and dime. My 5 and dime is because they have 5 stanzas, 5 two-line stanzas. And believe me, if you ever write a number of the same forms in a row, there's a possibility, like a fly on flypaper, to get stuck. I wrote 60 of these in a half a year. These are the better ones, and for a while I was wondering if I could write a long poem again. I think the Klezmer poem was the one that broke it open. Anyway, I'm just going to read 4 that are random here. And one of the cute things about this book is that I indexed it. Bob Welch has written an article about how enjoyable it is to index stuff. And Welch, Bob, lover of indexing was the title of his article. I thought, well, yeah, hey, this is a tiny book, and I might as well play with this idea of indexing. I've heard from a number of people who enjoy that. I would never dare do it with something bigger, but it's one of the nice little features here. So I'm going to read 4 that are looking right at me. The house she dwells in, her consciousness, how can she ever live outside it? I tremble for her, for me. Rooms dark, windows curtained, the thump of a heavy trunk bumping downstairs. I cup my life in one hand, heft it up and down. No more than a first-class letter, no more than a wishbone. Living is aging, stooping and shuffling. In my hand, life's heavier. I will not be able to hold it. I will say, take it. It's too much for me. The word cancer terrifies. I harbor the slow kind, inhabitants paying no rent, degrading the place. No need to sue for damages. I warn, listen, you guys, slow is okay. When they raise this tenement, you'll have nowhere to go. I carry it home, a TV left at 10th. I don't consider whose it was, only wonder if it works. I sit and watch the single channel. Through snow, one program, you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Now I feel like I got home with this one. What Eric didn't say, and what his bio doesn't necessarily refer to, is how actively engaged he is in the lives of many of the local poets and poets around the state. And how his experience as a teacher and a poet has affected him. So, would you join me